guys, it is me Jen and I'm back again today with a brand new video. I get asked by people all the time about the course I study at university, and quite a lot of people often ask me my advice on how to apply for primary teaching, because primary teaching is one of those courses that is in really high demand. There's usually lots and lots of applicants and it's quite an intense application process, so I thought I would take some time during this video today to let you guys know a little bit about my course, about what I do, and a little bit more in depth about how I applied and how I was lucky enough to be offered a place. Hopefully this will be really helpful for those of you who are thinking of going to university and possibly even thinking of applying for primary teaching. Now, just a quick disclaimer, everything that I'm going to be talking about is based on my own experiences. That might not be the case in every university in Scotland or even in the UK. I'm sure that people at different universities have very different experiences, so this is just based on what I've experienced. So just before we get started, I just thought I'd give you a little breakdown of what it is that I'm actually studying. If you didn't already know, I go to university in Scotland. The official name of the course that I'm studying is BA Primary Education. I was going to say that I'm currently in third year, but I've actually just completed my third year, and that means that in September I will be going into my fourth year. It's a 4-year long course, and then there's also a probation year that you need to complete before you are fully qualified as a teacher. I'll just start off at the very beginning, which was when I was in school, and this will hopefully give you a little bit of advice about how to apply for primary teaching and the sorts of subjects that you need. The first thing that I'm going to address is the kind of person that you need to be a teacher, because you'd be surprised at the number of people that have dropped out of my course over the years. I think the number of people on my course must have at least halved. Luckily I'm still left. It just shows you that maybe teaching isn't cut out for everyone, and I'm not hating on the people that decide that. I think that's totally, if you don't feel that it's for you, then you know, go and pursue something else. There's no point in wasting your time doing something that you don't enjoy doing. One of the most important things that I would probably say is that you need to be so patient. Obviously you're going to be working with kids, and that requires a lot of patience, particularly when you're trying to communicate with them, when you're trying to teach them things. You know, they're not always going to get it straight away. You need to be patient in terms of behaviour. You know, some days you're going to be pulling your hair out because that class just aren't collaborating with you in the way that you want them to. I cannot express enough, and this sounds like a really silly one, but you need to enjoy working with children. Imagine working in a school every weekday, surrounded by children, and just not enjoying that environment. I honestly think people that apply for my course that don't like working with children are just crazy, because you don't always get to pick and choose what classes you're going to be in, from nursery all the way up to primary 7, so that's obviously quite a broad spectrum of age groups. Particularly on my course we had to do a nursery placement. That's something which you do have to consider. Another one which is obviously very important is being a fairly confident speaker. I'm not saying that you have to be a really confident loud person like I am, you just need to feel comfortable speaking in front of a group of people, because obviously you're going to be surrounded by a group of 30 little people all day and you're going to have to teach them. So these ones are kind of extra ones, but I think you do have to be a very passionate person. I think it takes a lot of passion to want to work with children, and that definitely is something that they'll be looking for in your interviews. They want to see that this is your dream job, this is something that you want to do every day. At the end of the day, it's going to be your job to inspire the kids that you're going to be teaching. That obviously also involves a certain element of creativity. The more that you enjoy teaching, the more that the children will enjoy your teaching. So onto the subjects that I needed. Now, I honestly, for the life of me, can't remember what my entry requirements for my course. I wonder if I'll look it up. If the current entry requirements for my course are 3 A's and a B. You must have higher English, that's a kind of no-brainer. And when I applied it was standard grade maths that you needed, but I know that's obviously in Scotland changed to National 5 maths. Yeah, so you don't need quite as high a qualification in maths, which was really good for me because I hated maths in school. I don't know if I really understand what the equivalent of that is in like A-levels and things like that, so you'll probably need to look that up for yourself, and I know that every course obviously has different entry requirements, so it won't be the same everywhere, but that was just the case for me. Even though maths and English are required, I do recommend that you try and get a broad range of subjects when you're in school, because when you do become a primary teacher, you're expected to teach every area of the curriculum, from French and Spanish to PE, music and sciences. So it is really good to have experienced a broad range of different subjects at school. I know that I did art, I did French. There's a big push at the moment in schools to teach languages, so it is likely that you will have to do some form of language when you're at university. Another huge aspect of applying to become a primary teacher is your volunteering and your work experience and your personal statement. It is definitely something that they're looking for, and it's also something which will play an important part in your interviews. So I worked at an after school club club, I volunteered at Brownies, I volunteered as a coach at my local volleyball team for the younger group. I also did work experience in a school, which a lot of secondary schools offer. Any experience that you have working with children is really important, which brings me to the next aspect, which is interviews. They are going to want to talk to you about your experiences and kind of gauge the sort of person that you are. For the first aspect of my application process, I had to do a presentation, and that was in front of other prospective students and a couple of the lecturers. I think we had to present about a hobby or a book that we liked, something like that. It's really just to see how confident you are presenting in front of a group of people. So that I wasn't too worried about that. I'm a fairly confident speaker. Obviously I'm sitting in front of a camera right now, so I'm pretty used to talking out loud. But then the kind of more intimidating part was the interview in front of two of the lecturers, so it was a little bit more intimate, and they asked me all kinds of questions about the qualities that I thought I had that would make me a good primary teacher, about a primary teacher that inspired me when I was in school, all about my experiences working with children so far and why I was passionate, and that was a lot more intimidating. But I know a lot of secondary schools offer you the option to do practice interviews with like the deputies in your school, and that's definitely really beneficial, and my mum was really supportive in helping me practice all my questions, so I felt pretty prepared going into my interview and I feel like it went really well. I'm really good at making up stuff on the spot, as you can probably see, and then that was followed by a written response to a question. It felt a little bit like an exam. All of the prospective students that were doing interviews that day were in the one room. It was kind of a big lecture theatre, and we were given a piece of lined paper and we had to write a response to a question, which I have been racking my brains to try and remember what my question was, but I honestly can't think. It's usually about an issue which is really current in education, and they just ask you to write a response. It's usually something pretty open that you can give your opinions on, so it's not really something that's too much to worry about. Like, you don't need to study up too much for it. It's good if you know a little bit about policy and education, but don't worry, like, that's why you're going to university, to learn about these kind of things. It also allows them to see your use of vocabulary, grammar and punctuation, which obviously is something which is going to be important when you become a teacher. I know a lot of people get really fazed by the idea of doing this test. Luckily, I've always been quite keen on English. It was one of my strongest subjects in school, so I didn't really worry too much about that part. So my overall opinion of my course, obviously now I am nearing the end of my course, so I feel like I'm in a position where I can tell you my thoughts about it so far, is that it has been very intense. It is a full-time course. I wasn't in necessarily every day, but the days that you do have off, it's usually 1, maybe 2 days off a week. They do expect you to do some form of studying or work experience in that time, so it is a full-on course. The general workload from lectures and things is manageable. There's a lot of extended readings and things that they ask you to do, but again, that's really up to you how much you want to engage with the materials that they give you. There is a big aspect of independence when you go to university, and that's the same with any course. First year was definitely very focused on your skills, your academic writing skills, including referencing, which I think is pretty universal at every course. It is definitely hard work, especially when it comes to time on placement. There is a block placement every year, which gets increasingly longer. So just last year I had a 4-week placement in a nursery before Christmas, and then after Christmas I had a 6-week placement, which was with a primary 1 class, which I really enjoyed. I'm hoping to do some more videos a bit more in depth about placement and my tips and tricks for surviving on placement, so I'll hopefully be making some more university themed videos soon. If you have any questions or anything that you want me to talk about in particular, feel free to leave them down below, but I'm just trying to kind of give you an overview of my course in this chat. I was going to say little discussion, but I feel like I've been talking for ages now. I don't know how long it's been. It takes a lot of passion and drive to get through this course. Each year you have various different modules. It's almost a bit like school subjects. There are some core modules which are obviously related to your teaching that you have to take, but then there are also some electives that you can choose between. So some examples of some of the different modules that I've had over my time at university include digital technologies, which was like all about using the computers and interactive whiteboards and iPads in the classroom, which was really interesting. French, obviously I did say earlier about needing to do a language. I really enjoyed doing French, and I actually went and taught in a French school. I did a module on integrated arts, which is like dance, art, music, drama. I really enjoyed that. That was good fun. Professional maths and English, so obviously there is a very important focus on maths and English. We did have lots of different lectures on maths and English to kind of revisit areas that we hadn't looked at in a long time that we'd have to teach when we went into the schools. Children's literature was a really interesting one that I really enjoyed. It was all about the different books that children read. I used to love reading, so I found that really interesting, and we got to read lots of different books as a part of that, which I enjoyed. Interprofessional working, so obviously as a teacher you have to work with lots of different professionals. Sometimes that can involve social services, many different types of therapists, things like speech and language therapists. There's language support teachers who will help pupils that have English as an additional language, classroom assistants, there's so many different professionals that you have to work with as part of this job. And then there's usually a school experience module which helps set you up for placement, and you can have lots of discussions in those modules about certain topics. And terrifyingly, at the moment I'm just starting all my modules related to my dissertation, because I will be writing my dissertation and it will be handed in and I'll be nearly graduating, hopefully this time next year. So different days I have different classes. It's a little bit like being in school. Sometimes these are lectures, which means that all of the students are in the one room and there's a lecturer that usually talks at you, sometimes asks questions, there'll be maybe like a presentation slide, but there are also tutorials. I think some people call them seminars, but I don't think I've ever called them that. And that's like smaller classes, it won't be the whole year group. And you get to do more fun things. I know that primary teaching students are famous for doing craft activities during their tutorials, but it is really just to inspire your teaching practice. I know that we've done science experiments, played instruments and music, we've done art projects. You have to do a lot of kind of group work and presentations and things. It is really just to help build on your abilities as a teacher and inspire some ideas of things that you could do in the classroom. In terms of exams, in my course specifically, I haven't really had to do that many exams. I think I've had 1 or 2 over the 3 full years that I've been there. A lot of my end of module assessments take place in the form of an assignment or sometimes a presentation, and at the end of your block placement your tutor comes in to see you teach a lesson and they will grade you and pass you, and that is always terrifying. But again, like I said earlier, I'll talk a little bit more in depth about my experiences of placement and my tips for placement in another video. I think that's everything I was going to talk about. I'm thinking about doing a university Q&A, so if there's any questions I've not answered then feel free to ask them down below. I love having chats about this sort of thing. If you are thinking of applying to do primary teaching, then good luck to you. Even though it is a lot of hard work and determination, it is a really rewarding job. I'm really looking forward to graduating and having my own little class one day. Hopefully I've covered all the bases, and for those of you who aren't wanting to apply for primary teaching, I hope that you've still found this a little bit interesting and it'll give you a bit of an insight into what I do. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!